You ever wonder what it takes to really change a life? Sometimes, it's not some huge dramatic event. It's just a quiet whisper. Well, today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of a woman named Joan. She was a seeker, and her life was all about that one idea, the search for truth, right in the middle of the crazy, changing world of the 20th century. It's a story about how one single chance encounter can literally change everything.
And this quote, man, it just nails it, right? This is what Joan's story is all about. It captures that one moment, that little whisper in some far-off place that starts to completely reshape a person's destiny. It's this jump from the everyday to the absolutely extraordinary that defined her entire life. So where does a quest like this even begin? Well, it's funny. These huge, life-changing journeys often don't start with a clear map. They start with a deep, nagging feeling that something just isn't right. And for Joan, that feeling was a profound disillusionment with the world she knew.
To really get Joan's story, you have to picture the scene. The late 1960s in America, it was a complete whirlwind of change, of conflict. For Joan, and for so many people her age, it created this kind of spiritual unease. So when she decided to leave, it wasn't really an escape. It was a search, a real hunt for something that could quiet that deep, restless feeling inside.
I mean, just look at the pressures of the time. You had the absolute turmoil of the Vietnam War. You had these massive cultural shifts where all the old rules were breaking down. And you had a whole generation just wrestling with these enormous existential questions. It was like a spiritual vacuum, and that void was just begging to be filled.
And this is really the heart of it. As chaotic as the world was on the outside, the real reason for Joan's journey, it wasn't politics, it wasn't culture. It was this deep internal emptiness. A powerful search for a real, authentic peace, the kind you just can't find on any map.
So, this internal quest, it had to go somewhere, and pretty soon, it became a very physical one. Joan sets out on the legendary hippie trail, a path that would literally take her from the familiar world of the West deep into the mysteries of the East.
And this was so much more than just a trip. It was a total transformation. I mean, every single step, leaving Europe, getting lost in the bazaars of Turkey, was another step away from her old life. This whole journey was stripping away all her old ideas, getting her ready for the one single encounter that would change her life forever.
And here it is, the turning point. It happens in the most normal place you can imagine, a small restaurant in Afghanistan. A casual chat with some other English travelers, and they start talking about this young boy in India, someone they called with total reverence, the Master. And that's it. That one whisper, just a tiny ripple in the middle of her huge journey, was enough to point her entire being toward India. All of a sudden, her destination was crystal clear.
Okay, so fueled by this whisper, Joan finally makes it to India. And this next part, this is the core of her story. It's the meeting that would not only give her a purpose, but would become her life's entire work.
The year is 1970. Just try to imagine it. You've traveled thousands of miles, spent weeks searching, and now you're just waiting on a porch in Dehradun. Your heart is pounding. Everything has led to this one moment with a 12-year-old boy, Prem Rawat. And when he finally appeared, his first question was so blunt, so direct, it was almost jarring. What do you want? That's it. No ceremony. And that simple question just sliced through all her big ideas about spirituality, forcing her to get right to the reason she was there. Her answer was just as simple: peace.
And his response was just as direct. This wasn't him brushing her off. It was a challenge, a really profound one. He was inviting her to go out and see for herself, to prove the truth on her own. It set up this incredible dynamic right away. He wasn't just handing out answers. He was pushing her toward her own real experience. Her conviction got locked in for good shortly after, at this huge event in Delhi. This same young boy gets up in front of thousands of people and declares, with just unbelievable confidence, that he would establish peace in the world. To Joan, this wasn't just a nice speech, it was a mission statement, and she knew right then she was at the very beginning of a global movement.
So she'd found what she was looking for, but her journey was far from over. Her role completely flipped. She went from being this personal seeker to a public advocate, just totally driven by this urgent need to bring what she'd found back home to the West.
So what exactly was this elixir she felt she had to share? She called it the magic ingredient. And here's the key. This wasn't some new philosophy or a bunch of rules. It was a way to have a direct,
personal experience of peace inside yourself, something she believed had to be felt, not just understood. That was the message she had to bring home.
And boy, was she relentless about it. She got back to the U.S. in April of '71 and just launched a campaign. She was sending a storm of Western Union telegrams practically begging Prem Rawat to bring his message to America. And her persistence worked. She was a key part of organizing his very first U.S. event in L.A. that July.
Joan's own description of those early days just paints such a vivid picture. She said, "People were dripping from the rafters." You can just feel the energy in that quote, can't you? The intense hunger and the raw excitement in those packed-out halls. It was really and truly the start of a phenomenon.
By 1973, her public role was at its absolute peak. This was the year of Millennium 73, this massively ambitious event held in the Houston Astrodome, of all places. For the people involved, this was momentous. Some followers even called it the most significant event in human history. And Joan was right there at the center of it all, co-emceeing the whole thing.
But you know, that kind of intense, high-energy peak, it can't last forever. The next stage of her journey is all about how that youthful fire evolved into a mature, lifelong practice of wisdom and integration.
And look, the movement wasn't without its challenges. There was a major internal split in the mid-70s, often called the family split, which was this public disagreement between Prem Rawat and his mother. For a lot of his followers, it was a really difficult time. But for Joan, that conviction she built in that first meeting, it never wavered. Her personal connection to the experience seemed to rise above all the organizational drama.
This slide just sums up her evolution perfectly. In her later years, she'd even joke about her younger self being a drama queen. You see that youthful, passionate energy transform into a much more grounded, stable practice. Her public advocacy shifted to a focus on holistic healing, and that early, boundless optimism matured into this deep, reflective wisdom.
And at the end of the day, this is the core of her story. She looked back and said that while her approach changed, her public role changed, the movement itself changed over the decades. That fundamental experience, that feeling of peace in her heart, that was the one thing that was constant, the anchor for her entire life.
So Joan's incredible journey started with a single whisper in a restaurant that changed everything. It kind of leaves us with a question to think about, doesn't it? What was the most important whisper in your life? You know, that one seemingly small comment or piece of advice that just unexpectedly sent you down a whole new path.